everyone. Welcome to our live interview series. Today I've got Miss Tori Vargas here. Now, I have known Tori for about 6-7 months, and I've been watching her journey and learned about her journey unfold about 6 months ago. And I thought it was really important to have her come on and share her story with you. And we'll go a little bit deeper into the emotional and spiritual aspects, but let's go ahead and tell you a little bit about Tori. So Tori is a detox practitioner that focuses on healing the body through natural detoxification using only what comes from the earth. Okay, so her own healing journey started after chronic symptoms started to manifest after 10 rounds of chemotherapy. Now she is determined and focused to help others with chronic diseases to detox without labs, supplements, and doctor visits. Now that's a difficult one. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your story, and thank you so much for being here with us. Okay.
Of course. Well, thank you for asking me. Thank you for doing this. When we've been connected for a little bit of time. You've guided me through some cleansing. So it's been a pleasure being connected to your circles. So thank you for having me as well.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I think when I throw around the word chemotherapy, and tell people about my story a little bit, it's a little bit shocking because I'm very young, and people are like, oh, you had chemo? Did you have cancer? Like, what is that? So sometimes I have to really clarify what happened, and my whole journey started kind of in the blink of an eye, where my body had this autoimmune reaction to a medication. It was similar to a jab. It was for an anti-malaria thing when I was leaving the country.
Oh,
And,
wow.
the travel doctors just give you a ton of stuff. And my body did not like one of them. And it totally freaked out. Like my blood, pretty much toxicity just started backing up into my blood, and I couldn't walk, and I couldn't shower on my own, and my blood was not working well. And they decided to try to combat that toxicity with more toxicity, and threw chemo and blood transfusions and steroids at me for a while. Over the course of a year and a half to 2 years, it was around 10 rounds of chemo. It was a lot very upfront when that autoimmune reaction started to happen. And I was in the hospital for 2 weeks straight. I had chemo every other day for 2 weeks. And then they started to trickle me down, and I got chemo every 3 months for 6 months. And then every 6 months for the next year. So that was pretty much my prognosis from them. They said, you'll need preventative chemotherapy so this never happens again. And I just did not accept that answer, especially because chemo, my face blew up with acne. I could not maintain my weight for the life of me. And I started to lose half my hair. And I was like, this cannot be the way. If I'm only 21, this cannot be the way. So.
Wow, you were 21 years old when that happened. And do you mind telling me, where were you going to get this shot?
Dominican Republic. And people go to DR all the time with no problem.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And so you started doing that treatment, and then you said, I'm not going to accept this in my life. So then at what point, how did you know, I'm going to go to the natural route, or what came to you that made you decide that?
So when all this happened, I was in college, and I was fully a pre-med student. I could right now I have all the prerequisites. I could go to med school if I wanted to. And that helped me surrender to the Western med system, because I was understanding what they were telling me. And so during that time, the only kind of intuitive feeling that I started to understand was okay, there's a purpose why there's a reason why I was just forced to care about my body so young. All of my peers, I was the only one who suddenly was I cannot drink, I cannot smoke, and I cannot eat in a reckless way. Literally, I had to care about my body. So slowly it just started to organic foods and grass-fed meats and organic eggs and a lot more plant food. I got myself off all fast food and chemical food. And like, it just started with the, how can I control as much of my health as possible, as all of this other stuff is so out of control. It felt very out of control for me, with all of those kind of Western med treatments just like suck you in.
Yes.
So I started to control as much as I could, and I understood that I had to do it through food. And then from there, it was like just studying after studying got me from that kind of mainstream nutrition all the way to this alternative detoxification lifestyle.
What diet are you on now that's helped you in this process of detoxification?
So I've kind of shared about this in a couple places. I call it a detox diet, and it's really fruits, vegetables, leafy greens, nut milks, seed milks, blended soups, smoothies, juices, seaweeds, herbs. Like anything within those categories is kind of how I eat now. I definitely eat more balanced than I used to. I used to be like dabbling with extreme methods of like high fruit fasting and that low fat. I did all of that at one point in time. But now I have sustainably healed myself for a longer period of time with that balanced approach, rather than that extremist approach was kind of only a very short blip in my experience detoxing. So that hyper nourishment, the nourishment of my body across all those food groups, is what has, landed and resonated for me.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Are you, now I talked about this a little bit with you before, but one of our main focuses here is all about the emotional aspect and how the emotional triggers the food and the food triggers the emotional. So can you share a little bit about your emotional and spiritual journey along this process with changing your diet and your lifestyle, and obviously getting, going through this this illness that you had, and to be able to recover from that?
Yeah, like it's so interesting looking back now, because when I look at the actual instance of that autoimmune reaction when I was in the hospital, like technically to the doctors, chemo did work because I was out of the hospital in a 2-week time period. But when I look at that time for me in my mental, and I'm sitting there, like I've reflected on this so many times, of course, it's the most significant event that's ever happened to me. And I just remember like I was fully on my laptop finishing college from the hospital bed. I was journaling and inviting all the they had a lot of like spiritual healers that would volunteer at the hospital. So I would say yes to anybody. Like,
Really?
come. Yeah, it was
I have
very,
never heard of that.
it was great. It was great. I said yes to everyone under the sun. There were like priests of different denominations. I had astrologists. I had Reiki healers. I had massage therapists. Everyone just did this in a volunteer. And I said yes to every single one. So thinking about that time, there was no part of me mentally where I was like, I'm going to be like this forever, or like, I just, no part of my mind went to a negative place, because I so deeply, innately felt like the higher purpose for all of it. And I started to like, I got into just kind of praying to a universal power at that time. I started to just really find a spiritual comfort while I was actively in the hospital. And then after after I kind of came out of that and my physical body was fine for a while, I kind of got out of touch. You revert back to your natural patterns. And for me, my natural pattern is my nervous system is just like, go, 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 fight or flight, like ignore your own mind, hustle, grind, like. And until recently, I feel like I was in that space, and it reflected on my face. Like my acne has been the most significant indicator for me of my mental and emotional healing journey, just because I was doing all the physical things for 2.5 years and my skin did not clear up while doing all the physical things for that long. And at the level that I was detoxing, everyone was like, Tori, like, what is happening? Why are you still suffering with this stuff if you're like detoxing at this level? And it's because like I could not get my nervous system in check. And then there was Yeah, that breakthrough really does happen all of a sudden. And then like, I just show up now and people are like, whoa, like, how are you glowing? And how do you look like this? And your hair and your skin and your whatever. And I'm like, it was not until I decided to pay attention to my soul and my mind where it shows so outwardly like that.
So did you notice that, first of all, that was great. Thank you so much for sharing that and being so vulnerable with, with everyone here that's going to be watching this. And, would you say that when you were detoxing, when you would have certain foods or higher foods, like higher pulling fruits, I guess you would say, would you say that different emotions would come up with those, like when you would eat a certain way versus when you would not? Like, the emotions, were they more raw and more real? Was it, how would you say that experience was for you?
That's a good question. I think I was when I started my detoxing and I kind of like I found detox and it was like a light bulb went off as like, oh, this is the answer. And I was so focused on the physical body and my motivation to like kick chemo out of my body was so high. I almost had this disconnect for a while. Like I did not fully process that, like, okay, there's like foreign blood in my body from blood transfusions. And like I didn't have this relationship anymore. And I didn't really feel like my physical self. So I was just very, very focused on the physical and kind of just head down, mind down, let me juice, let me sauna, let me enema, let me move, let me it was like, you're grinding as if it's a 9 to 5, but healing my body. So I can't really say there's particular foods or maybe even particular types of fasting that triggered anything for me because the motivation was like so real.
Yeah. You were like, I got to do this, otherwise I'm not going to be here. Like I have to detox my body because this is the only answer. I understand that very well. Very well. Would you say now, how do you feel now when you're eating different food groups? Would you say how has that triggered your mental and emotional, I guess you would say, now in your life?
Yeah. So now I think that detox diet that I was kind of alluding to before, that feels like a very high vibrational style of eating for me. I find myself with different food groups outside of that detox diet, like grains, for example. Grains come into my life when I like want to connect with family and like when that's just in front of my face. And I will happily do that. But I think the only difference in my lifestyle now outside of the detox diet that will trigger emotions if I go up to a level of fasting. Like I don't really my life is my life now. So I don't really like indulge into these other things that I just know do not serve me anymore. So it's only if I go into a more intentional, extreme type of cleansing where stuff is triggered. And even then it's like, it's just a test of my discipline. I feel like I don't have really a lot of emotions. I don't know. I just feel like it's a test of my discipline and I meditate a lot now. I've done a lot of plant medicine too over the last months where like, when you start to embark on a journey like that, you're just like, oh, life is life and swaha. And I love everything and I love everyone and I can just live amazingly,
Yeah. No, I totally get it and understand, especially when you are tapping into those plant medicines and it, the healing happens there and it's just your life is never the same.
Oh, exactly.
Like, take the pill and that's it. It's like, okay, now life is completely different from what it was before. I absolutely understand that. And have you seen anybody like that you work with personally, that your clients, like, have you seen their emotions change, or even how, or this is a good question for you. Do you notice the difference in your lifestyle now, how you handle situations come up? Like overall demeanor, like when things come in, like if you do get triggered, like are you more calm now and easy with it, or more like quick to answer those kind of?
Totally. Hearing the question in that way helps me frame it a bit better. So I would say that now with this type of lifestyle that I live, my nervous system is not so quick to be like agitated, or I used to be very reactionary. And even now, like my energy does come across a little aggressive and like super like bop, 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 like fiery. But like imagine that times 100 before. And now it's coming from a more grounded place. I don't really get angry and I'm not really triggered by much because I hold a lot more compassion now. And even working with people, like beyond just kind of love.
You buzzed. Oh,
I am so sorry.
that's okay.
I'm so sorry. We have a
It's all
tornado. We have a tornado in Florida right now. So it's a
really.
little, yeah, it's a little
Oh my
ridiculous.
goodness. I
Let
remember those
me,
days. No, you're all good. This is how like everything that we're doing is so natural and it's all good.
perfect,
There's clips in and out here and we just roll with it. So don't even no stress at all.
perfect, perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, amazing.
This isn't ET news, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
one
yeah,
day.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, what I was saying is, I guess now I'm coming from a much more grounded space, and even working with people has helped me develop compassion and like a lot of understanding of just humans as a whole. So the combination of like, okay, this type of eating, like I'm very confident in my body and I feel very safe in my body, allows my nervous system to relax. So I'm not as, reactionary that way. But then just the nature of being a coach just teaches you so much about people and so much about just like what everyone's going through. And it's interesting because seeing other people's turmoil makes me even more sound and regulated, because when I see people freak out over things that are not very warranted, like if they don't need to freak out over something, and of course they don't know that, I know that because I understand what's happening in the body. But when people freak out over the littlest stuff, I'm like, oh, like I definitely don't have to freak out about anything. So it's a good mirror. It's a good mirror for me.
Yeah, yeah. And it's almost like you're like that sound calm board. So then that can help ease their warn of like, oh, I'm going crazy. You're like, okay, well, I know I'm going to come to Tori and everything's going to be okay.
Totally.
He's not freaking out. If she's not freaking out, then I shouldn't be freaking out. Which is,
And it even took a while to cultivate my reactions a little bit too to situations like that, because I was very also in a masculine energy previously, like that grind and hustle mode and all that. And then like the business element of kind of this work as well kept me in that space. So I would always like, if clients would come to me on that kind of energy, the desperate energy, I would always be like solution oriented. Like I need to fix your problem. And
yeah,
now there's a complete shift in the way that I respond. And it's like just this like comfort and this holding space and this like listening and allowing people to go through their emotions, and just me kind of serving as that like comfortable little cushion holding their energy a little. Yeah.
yeah, that mother
Yeah.
figure. Yeah. And would you say, can you see like a big shift in their emotions after they're going through, your different detox programs, how they shift and change as well?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the biggest thing that I notice is people just come back to themselves. Like when people come to me first, I
Mm,
notice I'm doing a lot of like damage control and kind of breaking down these dogmatic beliefs that people come in with, or these like they just have this connection and identity to their diagnoses as well. They don't necessarily have faith or believe that they can move past something like that.
mm,
So going through this process and just seeing these little improvements that they wouldn't necessarily notice if they didn't have a mirror reflecting what's been happening and reminding them throughout the entire journey, and just keeping people grounded and out of kind of those extreme confused states when, on Instagram and the nature of social media, people are just listening to like tip and advice and thing and this. And like, of course, I'm part of that game as
yeah.
well. But I'm part of that game to get people into this container that I know I've cultivated to be truly balanced.
Yeah, yeah, and that's so truthful. I mean, when you say that, there's so much information out there, so much, and everyone nowadays is just wanting to grab bits and pieces here, and then they want to grab something from here and want to grab something here, but then it can be so opposing. to what's happening like in that physical body. So to be able to come to that space and go, okay, now just come here and we'll do this together versus like having to search all around, you know? And I think that's so special that you can, you know, create that kind of a space for anybody who wants to come in. And now, is there any specific type of people? Do you like choose people, or is it anybody can come in and like detox with you?
So I'm in a unique situation. I feel very blessed where, because the credibility of me just going on Instagram Live and being able to answer almost any question that comes my way without hesitation, it's just shown that, you know, I can handle a lot of things, but I also don't take on clients by myself. I have a mentor who's been a naturopath for about 14 years who taught me almost like 90% of what I know. So she has kind of blessed me with the opportunity to work in tandem with her as I'm developing, because I admit I don't have decades of experience. I can't be 25 with decades of experience. Sure, I know what I'm talking about, but I do not have decades of seeing this happen. So when I take on clients, it's really a we. There's 2 practitioners per person. And because she has so much experience and I'm kind of a microphone and a scribe for the information publicly, we can handle any. And I'm so blessed that I can say we. And I use that as a flex, honestly. Like, I feel so grateful that I have the opportunity to work with someone, because the thought of having an entire client list by myself also does not feel good to me.
Yeah. And it's a lot to handle too, just with your own emotional state and being able to manage other people's emotions and their diet and what they're doing. It can be overwhelming, you know. So to be able to have that, it's almost like a sister figure to you that's next to you. So if maybe there is something you don't catch, you're like, okay, back me up here, you know, and she's got it. That's incredible. That's really great to hear. So you can take on any client, whether they're having cancer and having chemo, to someone as simple as like, I want to just detox my body. You know what I mean? Which I feel a lot of people now, this, especially this younger generation, and I consider you in the younger generation. I mean, I got 14 years, I'm 39, you know, and this younger generation, I feel, has definitely more ready to step up and more ready to like step into their true self and step into like, I need to be, you know, more of myself. I need to be a good person. And I think that's happened more in the younger generation than in the older generation. You know, it's like, you know, teaching an old dog tricks. Like, you got these new people who are ready, who are excited, and who are willing to do this for a better life, you know. And I found that they're more connected to nature as well, and to this new type of lifestyle that I think that we're all going into, which is closer to nature, closer to the trees, you know, and eating from nature like we used to, you know. It's like the new paradigm is actually the old, is like the original of where we're coming from. So yeah, that's amazing. I didn't even know you were 25. That's incredible.
That's people, 2 things when people like hear more about my life that they're shocked by is, 1, my age, and 2, my height. I'm very tall. When people meet me in person, they're like, whoa.
Wait, how tall are you?
I'm 5'10", which doesn't feel that tall, but as a female, and then my hair adds a couple inches, it just looks I look big.
Yeah, you look like you're 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
You look like a model. They're like, she should be on the runway, you know what I mean? Eating her banana fruit.
Totally.
That would be a good idea. I want to go into another question, if you don't mind. And I want to talk a little bit about like the preparation. Now, maybe this is, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but do you foresee yourself preparing yourself for, you know, to have a child? Do you think that this lifestyle is a part of that? Has that been in the back of your mind at all?
Oh, of course. Oh my gosh. I want babies. I think too that's actually, I'll go into a little bit that I've never shared before, because when I had chemo, they did an entire like scan on my body, and they found that my ovaries were extremely cystic at the time. I had like a couple cysts that were removed before I understood how to flush them out easily. And I kind of had this doctor say to me, she was like, just to let you know, this is what your ovaries look like, and I can't promise you that you can have kids.
Mm.
And I was told that at age 21 when I was going through chemo and going through all of this. So I was like, oh, okay, interesting.
How
So
did that
ever
feel when
since,
that happened? When she said that to you, how did that make you feel at 21?
um, oh yeah, it was crazy. I remember I had my boyfriend at the time. I told him, I was like, I need to come off birth control and I have to figure out my health. And
Mm.
we had this, like, I hadn't gotten my period for 4 years prior. I was on Depo shots and birth control pills in rotation. I used to get strokes from the Depo shot. Like, it was crazy, kind of
Whoa.
everything that I recognize now from
Yeah.
before. So me and him had this little saying together as I was trying to get my period back. We called it like the road to red. And it was cute, but it was like this really deep connection to me wanting to get my period back because I knew that if I could do it and I could regulate it, then my fertility would be fine.
Mm.
And it's gotten to that point, and it's now I'm at an age where, like, I'm dating with intention, and I'm really trying to cultivate that. I feel very stable in other areas of my life, and this I know that this is my career path. I know that this is where I've landed. However it ends up manifesting, this is the field that I'm in. So I'm actively, like, cultivating this other area of my life because I do want to step into motherhood, and I resonate with moms so much. And when
Yeah.
I meet women, I'm always like, "Are you a mom?" Like, I always ask.
Incredible. That's incredible. And would you say that, I mean, obviously, by you doing this and going through that detoxification, that has regulated your hormones, it has regulated your period. And I think a lot of women don't understand, what happens when we have all that birth control or the Depo shots, and how that actually almost like stops you from having kids. And I know that's one thing I say to women. I'm like, are you on birth control? You need to get off now. You know what I mean? Because if you want to have kids, you have to be able to regulate it and allow your body to naturally get pregnant. So that's amazing. So you're able to like use that with your diet as well to be able to help promote, a better fertility, a better, I guess you would say, the road to red for many other women too. And that's a big thing. I'm going to share this because I mean, a lot of raw foodists, because I'm sure there's going to be raw foodists that are going to come on here. Um, a lot of people say, like, I don't get my period, or I'm not supposed to get, when you're raw, you're not supposed to get your period. What would you say about that?
The first thing when I hear that is, did you learn that from a man, or did you hear that from a man? But then I say, like what else is going to be your sign of fertility? What else is going to tell you if you have enough iron or enough minerals? Because
Mm-hmm.
when our periods are, when we're detoxing and we're on raw food, the color of our cycles, and the, I guess, intensity of our cycles, or lack of blood or excess blood, like, all of that is an indicator of everything. So if you're not using that as an indicator, then I don't know how you're determining your health, your state of health.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And also too, the color. Have you noticed and this might be too much, I'm happy to share it, but have you noticed the color difference
Oh my
pre-detox,
god.
post-detox?
Of course. Of course, and the length of time. It's like, I guess,
Yeah.
like, a day 1, bright red, probably the heaviest, but by day 3, things are still bright red but super light and faded. 3 days tops, 4 days tops, if that.
And do you have
Mhm.
cramps? Do you have any of those like normal menstruation symptoms at all, would you say?
No, not never anymore at all.
Nice, nice. I
Yeah.
say the same thing. It's like, it's almost like it's just a part of life. It's like, oh, I'm bleeding now, and the color is so bright red. And they say when you take the blood, obviously you could be in pre med, right? Is when it's the brightest red, it's the cleaner blood. So your blood is actually getting
Mhm.
clean, and so you can see that actually when you are detoxing or after how clean you are based off your blood itself. So
Totally.
that.
And even during the thick of detox too, I remember, like, my menstrual cycle, when I did have it, it was like very, very clotty and, like, fibrous and, like, super thick and just dark, of course. Like, it's like you can clearly see your body getting rid of old.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely a positive going through that detoxification period, is to be able to come out on the other side and not have as much pain and not have as many issues. And that's one of the things that we talk about too. And like, like for me, I had a pain-free, push-free birth. You know what I mean? And like I didn't have the normal symptoms of having to, go and have inflammation of the feet or have like all these negative swellings or gain a bunch of weight. It was almost like it was just this natural process where when the baby came out, and the body just went back to normal. And I really say that's because of all the acidity and toxins that came out of the body to allow the body to expand the way it needs to and then go back the way it needs to, versus like holding on the toxin and be like, oh wait, this is gonna hurt, and then it just comes back in and it flows. And I think it's like your period is showing you as well how your birth can be,
Mm. Were
so
you living this life for a while before you got pregnant with your first?
no, my first was very different actually. I
Oh,
had
okay.
So I've been on this lifestyle for like 7 years, and so my first one is 7.5. Now with her, I did a little bit. I did some like liver flushes and kidney flushes, like the basic stuff, but nowhere near what I did for my son. When I conceived my son, actually, I was determined for 2 years to prepare my body, and that's when I went into my detoxification, was prepping for him and like cleaning up. And so then when I did conceive him, it was like completely different. So I went from like a 38-hour birth to a 10-minute birth, right? Had some complications here, had no complications here. And granted, I'm going to tell you something. People know this. I was vegan vegetarian, okay? And I had some meat, but I like on the standard, like they say, oh, she's vegan, but I was eating processed foods. I was eating a completely different lifestyle than eating like tons of live, fresh foods from the land and fruits and vegetables and seeds and herbs, the whole nine. Like it was a very different pregnancy and birth to have that kind of outcome. But yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. Enough about me. So is there anything else that you want to share now that we're kind of on that topic? I think a lot of women are going to be listening to this. Is there anything that you want to share with women, regarding detoxification, or anything that your own wisdom that could be spread to these women listening?
Yeah, I think so. I don't necessarily speak on like pregnancy and breastfeeding because I haven't
Yeah.
been through it. I don't believe on, talking about that. But I guess the number one thing that I've learned in practicing pretty extreme methods versus now finding balance, I just noticed very clearly like there is a difference between what male and female bodies require. There truly is. And men can get away with more extreme styles of things because testosterone is coursing through their body all the time and it keeps them very resilient. Like when I see husbands and wives that come through my door as clients, it's like the
Yeah.
wife is the one always struggling and the husband's like, I kind of eat junk, but I kind of feel okay. It's like, I see that day in and day out. And it's like, as women, we require a lot more minerals. We lose every single month. We lose iron, we lose minerals to our bodies. We have an entire 28 to 30 day hormone cycle that requires a lot of nourishment. It's just different. So I think if I'm to say anything to women in particular, it's just like pay attention who you're learning from, or pay attention who you're kind of following, because in the plethora of books that I've even read from, I guess I'll just call them the healers, like across the 1900s, you know, in the books written by women, you will never find very extreme methods to healing the body. I only see that in like all these fasting protocols and crazy things, which are beneficial as tools, of course, but like long-term sustainable healing for women, I've just seen in my body and kind of in other people, hypernourishment. Hypernourishment will eventually heal you versus this like extremist long-term drawn out just stripping and cleansing and stripping and cleansing. So that's what I'll say. Just pay attention who you're listening to and who you're following.
Ah, that's really, really good advice. I want to, because you went there, I want to tap a little bit into that. What do you think that these men, I guess men, why do you think men in general can, you know, decide I'm going to go on just a banana fast, you know, or do this fast for a long time versus women? Do you think it's a part of the mental, where they're like, they have a goal and they're going to do it? Or do you think it's like, what do you think that is for men?
I honestly, I think, you know, being a woman and just observing it from the outside, I'm also connected with a couple of my peers who are men and we have conversations. I think women are just so much more, things throw us off a lot easier, I feel like. And I feel like we notice a lot more, like the nitty-gritty details that change in our body kind of at the drop of a hat. I think like physiologically, I kind of expressed it. I think like testosterone being very similar to a steroid. Like if we look at Western med, it's like people, you put steroids in the body to kind of just mask and correct everything in the body. And if it's very similar, that physiological mechanism with testosterone as a hormone. So just in men's body, I just think that they don't deplete as quickly. They naturally have just denser bones, denser muscles. They have a lot more to give. And they can get away, you know, eventually they're going to deplete eventually. If people are 6 months on a banana fast, probably, you know, but when we're looking at like a month at a time or 2 months at a time, I anticipate women will see that depletion effect much sooner than men would.
Great. Awesome answer. So what do you do when you've got like a couple that comes to you, and do you have different protocols for each of them, would you say, or do you kind of have them on similar? Because I know that's been a big deal when couples come and they're like, you know, they want to be able to eat similar, you know, as each other, because they're going to go on this journey together versus alone, right?
Yeah, I when couples come to me, I think the only major differences is like the volume of food that each of them are eating. Truly. You know, the detox diet is a detox diet. And I believe that, you know, humans, of course, there are some bio-individuality is that word. Of course, there's some nuance to the way people are eating, but like foundationally, it's like eat off the earth and you will heal your body eventually. It's like very easy, you know? So
it's much easier than we think it is.
Yeah, exactly. And even just all of the information that I kind of put out there, and I tell people, because you know, when people are on the internet, like only 1% of people apply the information that they hear. Even anyone in this, you know, watching this interview, only 1% of people will even apply something. And I try to reiterate, like, guys, just because you're not paying $400 for a one-on-one session with some practitioner to tell you directly this to your face, this still applies to you, because foundationally, we all heal the body the same way. And then after you get those foundations dialed in, then maybe there's some nuance with the way you're going to introduce herbs or certain flushing protocols, depending on where your specific vulnerabilities lie. But we only deal with that after you have the foundations down, which is like, let's feed your body the right way. Let's hydrate your body the right way. Let's breathe the right way. Let's focus on meditating a little bit. And there we go.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it. Would you say that this, your lifestyle now has helped you with your meditation and that clarity?
Yeah, of course. Just I think the number one thing in my lifestyle is that my nervous system regulated on a very physical level first. Just with the flooding of minerals, I'm able to just keep myself from burning through everything in that kind of grind mode. My hunger was very up and down before with the way that my nervous system was kind of erratic, and that's very regulated now. I don't go through these like crazy like hypoglycemic and just crazy spikes in hunger. And just the nature of that nervous system stability has made meditation, I don't have a resistance to it now like I used to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Anything else you want to share? Can you share everyone where they can, you know, see you, what's your website, all the above?
Yeah, honestly, just if you want to learn anything, Instagram is at Detox Tori. That's it. Like, if you want to learn about me and my story, you can go to detoxtori.com. But like everything happens over on Instagram. I'm the era of social media. I am like you know, you can hit me up in the DMs, you can connect with me there. I respond to everybody. I'm always on Instagram. So that's just the easiest way. Super informal, honestly.
Awesome. Awesome. Yay. Cool. Well, thank you so much again. And I appreciate you. I look forward to hearing and watching your journey as it goes forward. I mean, you're only 25. I mean, what are you going to be doing at 40?
I know. I am excited.